and Zoning, John Weller, dated July 17th, 2026. And with those exhibits marked and moved in, I'll turn it over to Mr. Weller for his introductory comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baumler. Yeah, the history of this proposed amendment goes back to last fall, and at the meeting of October 14, 2025, the Township Planning Commission reviewed a conditional use application for the redevelopment of the Weston Solutions campus along King Road. The proposed design used the cluster development option that is allowed in the R1 residential district and did, in fact, comply with the design standards in the district. However, the Planning Commission and staff had a number of issues with the design, found it unsatisfactory on a number of aspects, but we could not argue the simple fact that it did, in fact, comply with all the design standards in the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission, encouraged the applicant to rethink the design, to come back with something a bit more creative and have some further discussion. As noted in my memo, Exhibit T5, the applicant did come back to the Planning Commission on March 3rd of 2026 with a concept plan that in some ways was similar to the original design, but was significantly improved, and that it addressed many of the concerns raised by the Planning Commission. And most specifically, it preserved additional permanent open space. It had a better treatment of at least some of the historic resources on the site, and preserved an existing wooded area along the King Road frontage of the tract. The Commission reacted quite favorably to this design, recognizing that it was a significant improvement, and then, but the applicant noted that the design would require an amendment to the cluster design standards. The applicant's counsel had prepared a draft for consideration by the Planning Commission, and this was in fact discussed at the meetings of March 3rd, May 5th, and June 16th, 2026. And following the discussion on June 16th, the Commission did pass a motion recommending that the board approve the amendment before you tonight. The principal provisions of the amendment are that there is a reduction in the minimum lot size for individual residential lots from 22,000 square feet to 19,000 square feet. And there's some more minor changes to the yard requirements. The minimum required amount of permanent open space is increased from 30% to 40% of the developable area of the overall tract. Limits on building coverage and lot coverage are expressed in square footage rather than percentages, which actually makes it easier to enforce, speaking as a zoning officer. And there is also a provision that says these revised area and bulk standards will not apply to existing developments that use the cluster design option. So there will not be any impact upon existing developments that were designed in this way. The existing regulations already allow for a bonus lot where it accommodates the preservation of the historic resource. The amendment preserves this bonus, but then is more specific about adding limits for building and impervious cover that are applicable to that particular lot. As stated in my memo at the time that I wrote the memo, that we had yet to receive the review from the Chester County Planning Commission. We have since received that. It arrived about an hour after I finished the memo on Friday afternoon. Better late than never, I suppose. They kind of go through a good bit of history on the tract. It's a relatively short review. As I said, they go through the history as far as their comments on the actual provisions. They don't seem to have any serious concerns, although they do include a recommendation that the township consider requiring an even higher percentage of open space, such as 45 or 50% instead of 40%. My reaction to that is, more is always better. That's nice. But the problem is that you end up kind of running up against how many lots they are allowed to have under the zoning and that minimum lot size. So in order to get 45 or 50% of the open space, we would probably have to allow still smaller lots within there. I should perhaps also mention, and this is, I think, a very important thing, is that the amendment does not change the overall, allow a developer to have more houses or more dwelling units than they would under the prior provision. As also noted, the Planning Commission's vote to recommend approval was a 3-to-1 vote with Commission Chairman Keith Chopra opposing. I did kind of describe some of his concerns in here as well, and I know he's present with us tonight and may comment on that. But the upshot is that the Planning Commission as a whole did in fact pass a recommendation, and staff is in support of that recommendation and of this amendment. I don't know, we do have the folks from Western Tract here, since there's another hearing, if you care to ask them questions, or certainly ask me.
The purpose of this hearing this evening, of course, under the municipality's planning code, is to receive public comments, so I think we should start with that. If there's any residents that are here in the room or online that wish to come forth and make comments regarding this ordinance change, now is the time to do it.
Any public comment? Come on up.
And so for purposes of clarity of the record, when you get up to the podium, can you please state your name and your address?
Yes. My name is Steve Coussart. I live at 1400. I'm sorry? C-O-U-S-A-R-T. I live at 1400 Whiteland Way, which is immediately adjacent to a portion of the development. Is there any way to get an image of the proposed development here, or are we just talking about concept here?
So we're doing two pieces back to back, sir. Right now, the board is contemplating and holding a public hearing for the purposes of amending the actual terms and regulations of the zoning ordinance regarding cluster developments.
Right.
If the board, at the conclusion of this hearing, votes to approve that zoning ordinance amendment that's before them, then the applicant will proceed with their conditional use application immediately thereafter. That would be the design, the plans, and all the legal standards that they have to meet in order to get approval from the board for that use for the property. So from what I discern, maybe your comments are a little soon. Do you have any comments specifically about the terms of the ordinance itself?
No. Just looking at the plan, you know, when we talked about the original change in the concept, and, you know, when it was zoned and we were thinking about changing the zoning to R1, you know, and then, which was 1 unit per acre, 1 dwelling per acre. And then, you know, it's like, oh, well, there's this overlay, which, you know, allows more of a cluster development. When I look at the site plan, I mean, this isn't maybe neither here nor there. I look at the site plan, it really, I have a hard time seeing that what I'm looking at, all those dwellings, is the equivalent of one development, 1 home per acre. It just looks too dense to me, but that's just a general, you know, I know that a lot of thought has gone into creating the cluster overlay and all that. I understand that, but it just looks very dense to me. Anyway.
And thank you for your comments, and you will be given another opportunity for public comment during the conditional use application.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Yep, thanch you. I was going to ask if you wanted to say something in reference to what his concerns were, that's all.
Yeah, first of all, bear in mind,
do you mind for a second? I mean, I wanted Mr. Weller to address what your concern was, though, for a second. That's all, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, please bear in mind that the cluster option is already in the zoning ordinance. And so what's being proposed here is a change to those regulations. Yes, you're right, that the individual lots are smaller, and that's the whole point of cluster development. The idea being that you have the same number of lots that would be allowed under what we'll call conventional development, but then you get this permanent open space, which helps preserve, in this case, you know, the nice wooded area along King Road, some of the historic features, and allows for some recreational opportunities as well. So I can tell you that the lot is about 53 acres is the tract that we're looking at, and they're proposing, I believe it's 49 new homes. So, I mean, that, and then the existing Moorstein mansion would be converted into a maximum of 6 apartments. So when you're still looking at, density, dwelling units per acre, it's still coming out, very, very close. Now, I will tell you that if the historic structure was not there, they would not be allowed to do those apartments because we want to encourage people to adaptively reuse historic structures. Again, this is something that's already in the zoning ordinance. In an R1 zoning district, you can take a historically designated home and convert it into apartments. That's allowed by conditional use. So, yeah, I would say that if, without the historic structure, it would be just 49 dwelling units that'd be going on this 53-acre tract. So, yeah, I get it. It kind of looks more dense because the lots are smaller, but you got to remember that all that permanent open space is being preserved. So,
Welcome.
Are there any other public comments in the room? Hearing none. Are there any public commenters online?
There is a gentleman online, Mark Letty.
Sharpaletti, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I'm at 1314 North Tulip Drive, so right on the Weston Way, close to Steve's property. And I understand, so there'll be a second conversation about the design. I do have a question here in general. No issues around the amendment. In terms of the historical structures, are we at a point where you know what those would be? The mansion, the train, the station, there's a Gables property by us where the voting happens. Like, what would be the historical structures that would be preserved? Or is it too soon? Would that come with the design, the next step?
I mean, yeah, that would be discussed in the actual design.
Okay.
The next step, yes.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Any other public comment?
Okay, hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chair, I believe you can make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we have a motion to close?
Okay. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, I second that. Any public comment based on that?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay.
Okay, well, obviously next on our agenda is the conditional use application itself for this property. But as I advised, I would recommend that the board render a vote on whether to adopt this zoning ordinance amendment before we would proceed to that.
Right.
conditional use.
Okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
What is the ordinance number so that I can make the motion?
It's 490?
Thank you. All right. I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 490 to amend 325-26 cluster and lot averaging development options and 325-91 lot averaging and cluster development provisions of Chapter 325 zoning of the West Whiteland Township Code of Ordinances.
I second that. And any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And how we have plans, approval of the updated pollutant reduction plan and authorization to submit.
Are we going on to
You have to do the Weston conditional use.
the other conditional use hearing?
I thought I already did. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry.
The one everyone's here for.
I am jumping way ahead. My apologies. Yeah, you're looking at me like, what is he doing? All right. Yeah. Okay, so we have the conditional use application, correct?
To be fair, it's a little out of the norm, right?
The hearing, yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Skipped right over it. I'll apologize. I kept looking at you, too, like.
Yeah, their mouth all wet.
You know, went right to the next thing on there, but, I didn't forget you, though. It's, all right.
Okay, so same process, Mr. Chair. We'll need a motion and a second to open the conditional use hearing.
I will make a motion to open the conditional use hearing.
I second that. Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'll take it from here. I'll do another set of introductory comments and some housekeeping matters, then I'll turn it over to Mr. Weller, and then ultimately be turned over to council for their case in chief. So this is a public hearing for a conditional use application of Weston Way Partners II Incorporated for the redevelopment of the former Weston Solutions office campus for residential use. Again, I will turn it over to Mr. Weller for more in-depth comments, but that's the baseline. That is why we're here. And I'm going to mark a few exhibits on the township's behalf for the purposes of establishing the record. For this hearing, Exhibit T1 will be the application for the conditional use approval itself. Exhibit T2 will be the proofs of publication of the conditional use hearing, which ran in the daily local newspaper on July 7th and July 14th, 2026. Exhibit T3 will be the affidavit of posting of the property with notice of this conditional use hearing that was submitted by the applicant. Exhibit T4 is a copy of the June 16th, 2026 minutes of the Township Planning Commission. Exhibit T5 is the review letter of Township Engineers Spot, Stevens, and McCoy, which is dated June 10th, 2026. Exhibit T6 is the review letter of Township Sewer Engineer Remington and Vernick, dated June 8th, 2026. Exhibit T7 is the review letter of Township Consultant Therakoff Design and Planning, dated June 9th, 2026. Exhibit T8 will be the review letters of the Township Traffic Engineer Bowman, which are dated June 9th, 2026 and June 19th, 2026. Exhibit T9 will be the review letter of the Township Fire Marshal, which is dated June 10th, 2026. Exhibit T10 is the review letter of the Public Works Department, which is dated June 9th, 2026. And finally, Exhibit T11 is the memorandum to the Board of Supervisors of Township Director of Planning and Zoning, John Weller, which is dated July 17th, 2026. Once again, before I turn it over for introductory comments and the council's case in chief, I'm going to inquire about party status. A conditional use hearing is a public hearing, but it also grants residents and property interest holders within a specified distance of the subject property the right to become a formal party to the hearing. Formal party status would involve being able to present evidence and testimony and participate in any potential appeal to the Court of Common Pleas that may result from the decision on this application. As I said, generally the law states that if you are a property interest holder or resident within 500 feet of the subject property, you can apply for potential party status. There will also be a public comment opportunity at the conclusion of the testimony in this hearing. So just because you do not have party status or do not seek to obtain it does not mean that you do not have the opportunity to make your public comments regarding the terms of this application. So having said all that, I'll ask, is there anybody that is sitting in the audience or that is online with us today that seeks formal party status to this application? Seeing and hearing none, I will turn it over to Mr. Weller for his introductory comments.
Hey, once again, thank you, Mr. Baumler. Before I begin, whoever's running the tech, could I be able to share screen, please? Because I do have some people have already indicated interest in seeing what this looks like. And while that's warming up, we might as well get started. As we have already noted, the subject of tonight's hearing is the conditional use application for the redevelopment of the Weston Solutions office campus for residential use pursuant to the provisions of the cluster development option that were just amended a few moments ago. Since we do have a fair number of the public in attendance, both in the room and virtually, I would just remind everyone that because of the size of this project, there is essentially a two-step review and approval process. This step is the conditional use step. This is the part where we hear about the general concept, although you will note that it is a fairly detailed plan, and that the township has the right to attach reasonable conditions to their approval. If it pleases the board to grant conditional use approval to the plan, then the second step is the actual land development review and approval process, which essentially looks very similar, but is a far more detailed set of drawings and engineering and things like that. So, you know, just to let you know that even if this conditional use is approved tonight or within the next few meetings, there is still a completely another process that this applicant is going to have to do. I think as most everyone here is aware, the campus of the property is along the south side of King Road and is actually adjacent to the, or nearly adjacent, it is not actually adjacent to the US 202 Expressway. And there are existing residential neighborhoods to the south and the east, largely consisting of single-family homes on lots ranging in size from about 2/3 of an acre up to about 1 acre. The principal access to the site is Weston Way. And with that, let me see if we can show you the drawings here. There we go. There you go. Okay, that's it. In this case, north is off to the left side of the screen, so that is the King Road frontage there. I think as everyone knows, the property is currently the site of the Weston Solutions office campus. Existing improvements include office buildings, parking lots, several historic resources, most prominent of which are the Moorstein Mansion and a stable complex that goes with the mansion, as well as the former Moorstein train station, which happens to be on the National Register of Historic Places. The plan proposes 49 lots for development with single-family detached homes, 1 lot for the historic Moorstein Mansion, 21.67 acres of qualifying open space, and approximately 3,000 linear feet of new roads. Conditional use review is required because more than 15 dwelling units are being proposed. As I mentioned as part of my comments on the zoning ordinance amendment, the Planning Commission first reviewed this conditional use application on October 14th of 2025. They were not very happy with it, so they asked the developer to reconsider, and they did, and this is kind of what came back. And as has already been noted, that this design does in fact comply with the cluster development option as recently amended. The design of this project was reviewed on May 5th, 2026, and then was reviewed by the Township Historical Commission on May 11th and on June 8th, 2026. I should note that the Historical Commission was understandably concerned about this project because of the number of historic resources on the site. And they, on June 8th, after extensive dialogue with the applicant, which I'm sure they will go into as part of their testimony tonight, they did pass a motion at the June 8th meeting supporting the proposed plan. And they noted, this is a quote from the minutes of the June 8th meeting of the Historical Commission, and I quote, "It is recommended to approve the proposed plan, which encompasses the demolition of the stables and the Whitman House, the adaptive reuse of the mansion, and the preservation of the gatehouse and the train station, along with their associated gates and pillars, either at their current locations or through relocation. The applicant shall explore the repurposing of elements from the stables throughout the development as practicable. Furthermore, to include the installation of interpretive panels and historic markers for all historic structures on the site, as well as comprehensive photographic documentation of the existing historic structures. Following that meeting with the Historical Commission, the applicant also then went again to the Planning Commission for the third time on June 16th, 2026. Following discussion at that meeting, the Commission concluded that their concerns had been resolved to the extent that they passed a motion recommending that the board approve the conditional use application with 12 suggested conditions. As it states in my memorandum, which is Exhibit T11, of those 12 conditions, 2 are actually no longer necessary, one of which was a condition that if this board would deny the amendment to the zoning ordinance, they would recommend denial of the conditional use application. Since you approved that amendment, that's become a moot issue. The second involved a report on traffic generation provided by the applicant that had not yet been reviewed by our traffic consultant, Bowman. And of course, that has since happened, and you have that before you. And the Bowman has essentially agreed with what the applicant had been stating for, during the whole process, was that traffic generated by this project will actually be less than the traffic that was generated by Weston Solutions. The commission motion to recommend approval of this conditional use application was a 3-to-1 vote, with Commission Chair Keith Choper opposing, noting that since he was opposed to the amendment of the zoning ordinance, he didn't feel he could be in favor of the conditional use application. The next section of the memorandum reviews the 12 criteria for conditional use applications, which I was not planning to read, but we can go into those in as much detail as you like. We have also attached consultant reviews, as Mr. Baumler has already entered into the record. And we also did provide for your consideration a recommended motion that is based upon the motion by the Planning Commission. That being said, I am sure that the applicant has a presentation and information to provide as well. So I have no further comments at this time.
The floor is yours, counsel.
Good evening, everyone. Allison Zaro, on behalf of the applicant, Weston Way Partners, Roman numeral 2, Inc. As you've heard from Mr. Weller's very thorough introduction, we are here tonight seeking conditional use approval pertaining to a property that's been commonly known as the Weston Solutions property. It housed their corporate campus for many years. The site was previously zoned OL district, and as you are aware, the board did rezone this property in 2024, that coming on the heels of a change and designation in a comprehensive plan update in 2022, and that's since been reaffirmed in the township's current comprehensive plan. We are seeking conditional use approval based on the amendment that we appreciate that the board just passed this evening. I do have 2 witnesses this evening. The first is Tom Kessler, who is a representative of the applicant. The second is Denny Howell III, who is the civil engineer for the project from Howell Engineering. I do also have a pre-marked packet of exhibits to hand up to the board. I know it looks like a lot of paper, but we do have the full conditional use plan set in there and our other supporting reports that we submitted with the application. I do also have a few what I'll call housekeeping items that are included, and so I'll just note them first. I'll hand everything out, and then we can have Mr. Kessler sworn. Exhibit A1 is the conditional use application and narrative and conditional use plan prepared by Howell Engineering dated August 1st, 2025, sheets 1 through 5, which was the initial plan we filed with the application under a cover letter from myself dated August 19th, 2025. Exhibit A2 is the West Whiteland Township zoning ordinance incorporated by reference. Exhibit A3 is the affidavit of mailing to notice of this hearing to property owners within 300 feet of the property. We do have the original receipts that we have received proving that we sent things out and what we've received back, I will hand that particular package to Mr. Baumler. And Exhibit A4 is a copy of the affidavit of posting. In your township, similar to the notice, the applicant is required to post, so we do have a duplicative exhibit, but we do have that original in here as well. While I'm doing that, we could have Mr. Kessler sworn while I'm handing these out.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
She went to all that work.
Tom, could you please state your full name for the record?
Thomas G. Kessler.
And who's your current employer and what's your position?
Willow Hill Development Group, I'm the president.
And what is your relationship to the applicant, Weston Way Partners 2, Inc.?
I am the president.
And is that an affiliated entity of your overall?
My company, yes, not direct affiliate, but yes.
Yes.
Created for the project.
Yes. Are you authorized to appear and make representations at tonight's hearing on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, I am.
And could you just briefly describe for the board your background and experience as it relates to the home building industry, so they have an understanding of your interest in the site?
Sure. I've been involved in real estate business for approximately 25 years, formerly with a builder and then subsequently on my own, where I have acquired, gotten approvals for and developed several communities in the area.
And would a close by one be in Euclid Township that's currently under construction?
Yes, Worthington Farm in Euclid Township.
And would that be a similar type of construction and product here?
Yes, that one's 73 single-family estate homes.
We have pre-marked as Exhibit A5 a redacted agreement of sale between Weston Solutions, Inc. and Weston Way Partners 2, Inc., dated July 8th, 2022. Does this demonstrate that you are or your entity is the equitable owner of the property?
Yes, I am.
We have marked as Exhibit A6 an aerial of the property. I don't know if Mr. Weller, you'd be able to bring that up on the screen. And Tom, referring to Exhibit A6, the aerial, could you generally identify the location of the property as shown on this aerial and what surrounds it?
Sure. As Mr. Weller indicated, the property is located south of King Road, somewhat approximate to 202 at the edge of the township.
And are the various tax parcel numbers that comprise this property highlighted in red on the aerial?
Yes, they are.
I know it's hard to see on the screen, but they are. Referring to the conditional use plan now, just very briefly, and we'll have Mr. Howell go into more detail on it. Did you direct Howell Engineering to prepare what we have marked as Exhibit A7, the conditional use plan, dated August 1st, 2025, and last revised May 23rd, 2026, which consists of 17 sheets?
Yes, I did.
And did you also direct the preparation of Exhibit A8, rendered site plan prepared by Howell Engineering, dated March 3rd, 2026?
Yes, I did.
And referring to that rendered plan, Mr. Weller has already given an overview, but if you could just briefly touch on what you're proposing on the property.
Yes, so the proposal is for 49 new construction units, and then the preservation of some of the historic buildings on the site, including a readaptation of the mansion into up to, but not exceeding 6 units.
And as a result, are you seeking conditional use approval for more than 15 lots or dwellings on the property and for that residential conversion of the Morris unit?
Yes, I am.
Did you appear before the Township Historical Commission on May 11th and June 8th, 2026 to present the application?
The current application, yes.
And based on that discussion with the Planning Commission, or excuse me, with the Historical Commission, did you make several adjustments to the plan in the course of that conversation?
Between the first and second, yes.
And as of the June 8th, 2026 meeting, as Mr. Weller indicated, the Historical Commission made a recommendation approving the application subject to the following conditions: that the applicant explore the practical repurposing of architectural elements from the historic structures slated for demolition. Number two, that the applicant install educational historic markers on the site. And number three, that the applicant compile a comprehensive photographic and historical documentation package of the existing structures prior to demolition. And if this application were to be approved by this board, would those recommendations be agreeable to the applicant?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you also appear before the West Whiteland Township Planning Commission to review the application on October 14th, May 5th, October 14th, 2025, I should say, May 5th, and June 16th of 2026?
Yes.
And Mr. Weller had also referenced those discussions with the Planning Commission ultimately voting to recommend, and Mr. Weller indicated in his memorandum dated July 17th, 2026, that there were several conditions that the Planning Commission recommended. Are you familiar with those recommendations?
Yes, I am.
And if this board were to approve this conditional use application, would the applicant be agreeable to complying with the recommended conditions?
Yes, I would.
I have no further questions for Mr. Kessler.
Questions from the board?
I don't have any questions, do you?
I suppose not. I was looking at some of the things as, you know, not dedicating the roads and that kind of thing, but it sounds like that's been pretty much settled, so.
Seems pretty covered.
Mhm.
All right, with no further questions, your next witness?
Next, I'd like to call Mr. Howell.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Denny, could you please state your full name and business address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Denny Lee Howell III, and my business address is 1250 Wrights Lane, Westchester, Pennsylvania.
And who is your current employer, and what is your position with that employer?
I'm currently employed at Howell Engineering, and I hold the title of Principal Engineer.
And are you a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Yes.
And have you been accepted as an expert and testified in front of various governing bodies in the southeastern Pennsylvania region?
I have.
And we do have Mr. Howell CV marked as Exhibit A9. I'd be happy to have him answer any additional questions the board has, but otherwise I would like to qualify him as an expert in civil engineering.
Does the board agree to stipulate as to his expertise, or would you like to ask further questions?
I agree.
I've seen him before.
Thank you. Denny, are you familiar with the applicable regulations of the West Whiteland Township zoning ordinance?
I am.
And you heard Mr. Kessler describe the property location, and do you agree with his description?
Yes.
And this has been touched on briefly earlier, but to formally make sure that it's clear in the record, could you describe the total acreage of the site and confirm the current zoning?
Yes, the entire site is approximately 53.5 gross acres, and it is entirely within the R1 zoning district.
Now, referring back to Exhibit A6, the property aerial, could you touch on what is located surrounding the subject property?
Yes, to the south and the east, it's largely developed with single-family residential homes. To the north is zoned limited industrial. One of the parcels is unimproved. The other parcel is improved with a commercial, or industrial building. To the west, the property is bordered by Route 202, multiple other single-family homes, and then the Knights of Columbus property.
Was your office responsible for preparation of Exhibit A7, the conditional use plan, that was previously marked last revised May 23rd, 2026?
Yes.
And does this version differ from the original conditional use plan that was submitted as part of the application, which we have marked as Exhibit A1?
Yes, it does. As Mr. Weller had spoken about earlier, the Planning Commission was, I'll use the phrase, dissatisfied with the result or with the plans that were presented, and using the feedback that they had provided us, we had gone back to the drawing board to make some changes to the R1 cluster, which the board just adopted, and come back with a new, better plan.
And we'll walk you through that plan shortly, but to confirm, Exhibit A7 is the version of the conditional use plan for which the applicant is seeking approval tonight.
That's correct.
Understanding, just with a caveat there, understanding that through the land development process, you might have minor tweaks to this plan, but in general, this is the layout. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Next, I'd like to refer you to Exhibit A8, the rendered site plan, and this is also dated March 3rd, 2026, which we marked earlier, but were you responsible for the preparation of this plan?
Yes.
And I think we'll refer to that throughout because it's a lot easier to see on the screen, so when it comes up.
Some paging to do.
So the board has already heard and the residents about residential cluster development in general, but I'd like to specifically walk you through what's shown on this site and what's proposed as part of this development. If you could walk us through lot configuration, access, general overview of amenities, historic resources that are being included, if you could walk the board through that.
Yep. So I feel as though I'm just repeating what Mr. Weller said, hopefully to expand upon it a little bit more. But we're proposing a 50-lot subdivision with 49 new single-family homes. The existing Morstein mansion is going to be preserved. The original historic portion is going to be preserved and converted into, at the maximum, 6 apartment units. Access to the community will be provided off of King Road for one means of access, and then the second means of access, or I'm sorry, before I get off of that access, that would be the current existing access where Weston Way is currently located. We would be continuing to use that point of access. And then the second point of access will be on Old Phoenixville Pike, where Weston Solutions also currently has a point of access to the property. This plan proposes approximately 21.6 acres of dedicated open space as defined by the Township Code. Stormwater management is going to be handled by 3 new stormwater management basins, as well as 1 basin that's going to be modified, so there will be a total of 4 basins to manage all of the stormwater on the property. We'll speak about this more later on, but there are multiple historic resources on the property, some of them to be preserved and some of them to be demolished. The Morstein train station, which is located on Weston Way, will be relocated to serve as an entrance feature to the community. The gatehouse, gate posts, and the gates will be preserved as an entrance for the Old Phoenixville Pike point of access for the property. And then as I said before, the Morstein mansion will be preserved. A trail system is proposed throughout the property to allow residents to use the open space and observe all the natural features that are going to be preserved. And then I'd also spoken about the historic resources that would be removed. The ones that would be removed, which were named in our historic report, are the stables complex, which Mr. Kessler had spoken about, that we would explore options for preserving some of the material from the stables building itself to build things such as landscape walls or pillars or columns, something of that nature to enhance the community. And then as well, the Whiteland house, and then there was a shed that was also listed on there, which would also be removed.
And with respect to the overall redevelopment of the site, there are any other features of the site that are non-historic would also be removed.
That's correct.
Well, I guess probably, I don't want to have to make John flip back and forth, so maybe we'll just stay on this plan. But for reference, sheet 2 of Exhibit A7, the conditional use plan, do you have a zoning data chart listed on that sheet of the plan?
Yes.
And does that include area and bulk regulations as well as parking regulations that would apply specifically to the cluster development that is proposed with the ordinance change that just occurred?
Yes.
And does that chart and plan sheet confirm that the proposed development complies with the current cluster development regulation?
Yes.
Under the new zoning ordinance amendment, you had touched on this already, but wanted to make sure that we confirm that the proposal does comply with the updated open space.
Yes.
And as noted previously, but also to confirm, the proposed development does not result in any increase in density over what would have otherwise permitted, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So looking at the open space itself, and one of the items that was discussed with the Planning Commission, are there specific areas of the site where the increase in open space benefits the overall layout and any buffering to the neighboring properties?
Yes, so there were a number of areas where we were able to preserve additional open space. We largely preserved the additional open space throughout the entire community, but there were a few key areas where we felt it was going to be the most beneficial to both those living in the community and those property owners who were adjacent to the community. One portion where we gained a significant amount of open space is at the end of what I will call Road B, which will be the cul-de-sac road, which has the cul-de-sac bulb which terminates near King Road. By reducing the lot sizes and the lot widths and the side yard requirements, we were able to shorten that road a significant amount and preserve a large number more existing wooded areas. Additionally, behind lots, I believe they are 28 to 36. I'll describe them as the lots which are on the left side of the primary access if you were to enter on King Road. Those lots were able to be smaller to allow for less yard area and more area to be preserved as open space.
And one other feature that I wanted to ask you about before we go into review letters. At the Planning Commission meetings, there was discussion about providing some sort of play amenity on the property, and in the recommended conditions of approval from the Planning Commission, they recommended that a playground be added to the plan. Is that something that's agreeable to the applicant?
Yes.
And that is something, if this board were to approve this, would be reflected in the land development plan?
That's correct.
Have you had an opportunity to review the technical review letters issued by the Township's consultants regarding this conditional use application, which were marked as Exhibit T5 through T10?
Yes.
As well as John Weller's memorandum, which is marked as T11?
Yes.
In the zoning officer's memorandum to the board, or I should say John Weller's memorandum to the board, he references comment 1 of Spot Stevens and McCoy's review letter dated June 10th, 2026, regarding pedestrian circulation on the site, and Mr. Weller recommends eliminating, based on staff discussion, eliminating proposed trail and sidewalk segment on the northeast side of King Road connecting to what's identified as the Kinney property to avoid creating a sidewalk to nowhere. Is the applicant agreeable to this modification?
Yes.
And with respect to, and I'm just going to touch on specific items that are called out in Mr. Weller's memorandum, but to confirm, in general, are the comments in the review letters will comply?
Yes.
Okay. So turning to Mr. Thurkoff's review letter.
Excuse me, Ms. Arrow, may I just interrupt? I think there might have been a misunderstanding here. You did characterize my recommendation to the Planning Commission correctly about eliminating that segment of sidewalk. However, the planning commission had the nerve to disagree with me on that one.
Okay.
And so I think if you look at Exhibit T11 at the bottom, page 7, I took out that recommendation from staff, and it says, the applicant is proposing a trail or sidewalk along the entire King Road frontage. The commission was agreeable to this and concluded that they were satisfied with the pedestrian provisions as shown. So the planning commission does want that sidewalk, so, and being a good staff member, I will say I want it to, so.
Very good, I apologize. I missed that in the overall translation of everything. So, going back to that, with Mr. Weller's, correction, would the applicant be amenable to providing the trail network and sidewalk as shown on the?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Weller. Turning to the Thurkoff Design and Planning Review dated June 9th, 2026, which is marked as Exhibit T7. There were 2 comments in here about landscape buffer widths and street tree plantings, which, again, this would not be something that would be specifically considered by the board until we got to land development, but we wanted to note them and have you explain to the board whether you would be requesting waivers from 2 particular sections during land development should this plan be approved.
Yes, so to answer your question, we would be requesting waivers from these sections, and to provide some clarity as to what the waiver request would be, Mr. Thurkoff had correctly identified that we did not provide adequate screen buffers between the mansion and lot number 41, as well as between the relocated Morstein Station and lot 27 due to the I-1 district, which is across the street. The general sense of the comment was to provide additional buffers in between historic resources and between industrial developments and residential developments. However, we would be requesting this waiver because we don't want to provide screening against these existing historic structures. We would like them to be prominent and for people to notice them in the community.
And with respect to the other buffer identified, which pertains to street trees, would this just be a simple potential relocation of street trees in order to, if the pipelines would not let you place?
Yes.
So otherwise, looking at the review letters holistically, and with the summary in Mr. Weller's memo, is the applicant able?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I'd like to walk you through the conditional use standards. Have you had an opportunity to review the standards for conditional use set forth in the zoning ordinance as outlined in section 325-124?
I have.
And have you also had an opportunity to review Mr. Weller's memorandum and summary that he referenced earlier, where he walks through the standards of conditional use approval?
Yes.
And in your opinion, does the proposed development comply with the standards for conditional use approval?
Yes.
I'd like to walk you through certain of these specific standards and address some of the additional materials that were filed with the conditional use application. Specifically, with respect to traffic and trip generation, we have marked as Exhibit A10 a trip generation comparison prepared by Traffic Planning and Design dated May 5th, 2026. And was this prepared in connection with the application, both with your collaboration and at the applicant's direction?
Yes.
And could you briefly explain to the board what was determined with respect to trip generation as outlined in the comparison?
Yes, so the conclusion of Traffic Planning and Design's findings, as well as an agreement with the Township Traffic Engineer, Bowman, was that there was going to be a significant reduction in the number of trips that were going to be generated from the property.
And specifically, that would be based on what a traffic engineer would normally look at, which would include average weekday, both in the overall, as well as the weekday morning and afternoon peak hours, as well as a Saturday midday peak hour?
Yes, there would be a significant reduction in all of those times of day.
So based on that, as you've mentioned, it's your understanding the township's traffic engineer then concurs with the findings in TPD's review letter.
Yes.
In terms of public services and facilities, in your opinion, is the proposed development reasonable in terms of the logical, efficient, and economical extension of public services and facilities?
Yes.
Is the development proposing to use public sewer and public water?
Yes.
Have you obtained a will-serve letter from Aqua, which we have marked as Exhibit A11 dated May 7th, 2026, indicating that there is sufficient water capacity for the project?
Yes.
And have you also discussed sanitary sewer with the township and confirmed the availability of sanitary sewer to the site?
Yes. We had determined that Weston Solutions Campus currently uses 76 EDUs of sewer, and the proposed development will only use 55 EDUs of sewer.
So as a result, the amount of wastewater needed for the site will actually decrease as a result of the redevelopment rather than an increase.
That's correct.
Have you also discussed with the township at a staff level the type of sanitary sewer design proposed for this development?
Yes, we had discussed a low-pressure force main system.
And does the township's subdivision and land development ordinance otherwise prohibit a low-pressure sanitary sewer system in the township?
That's correct.
And would you be requesting a waiver from that requirement during the land development process?
Yes.
And could you briefly explain to the board why you are proposing a low-pressure system on the site?
Yes, for a number of reasons, mostly due to topography. The topography on this particular site does not lend itself very well to not only a gravity system, but also a gravity system to one central pump station. So given those factors and then some other things as well, we feel as though low-pressure force main would be the most efficient means of sewage disposal.
And is that also referenced in Mr. Weller's memorandum?
Yes.
Did you also take a look at the stormwater management design for the site?
Yes.
And in your opinion, will the management of stormwater and other alterations to the site be consistent with the township's goals, practices, and plans?
Yes.
Did your office prepare Exhibit A12, a preliminary stormwater management feasibility report dated August 15th, 2025?
Yes.
And if you could briefly explain to the board, I know you touched on it earlier, that there would be certain basins on the site, but if you could briefly explain to the board the overall concept for stormwater management on the site.
Yes. So as I had said earlier, the site will be served by 4 stormwater management basins, 3 of which would be new, 1 of which would be modified that currently serves the existing Weston Solutions campus. I had prepared the preliminary stormwater management report to quantify the pre-developed flow calculations as well as post-developed flow calculations, showing that we meet and exceed the peak rate reductions that your township requires and that DEP requires, and also meeting the infiltration volume requirements that both your township and DEP require.
And per comment 11 of the SSM review letter, which is marked as Exhibit T5, does SSM concur that the feasibility of the stormwater management design has been adequately demonstrated?
Yes.
And will you continue to work with the township to finalize and adjust the stormwater management design through the subdivision and land development process?
Yes.
In your opinion, is the proposed residential cluster development an appropriate use of the site and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of surrounding property or the character of the neighborhood?
Yes, in my opinion, I think that this plan that's in front of the board is consistent with the underlying R1 zoning. Additionally, the cluster which is proposed provides a good transition between the highway and the highway corridor located to the east and also the industrial uses to the north.
And has the proposed development been designed to the extent reasonably possible to limit the number of access points, reduce the need for on-street parking, and encourage building frontage along parallel streets or roads perpendicular to the highway?
Yes, this plan proposes to use the 2 existing access points that Weston Way currently uses albeit some improvements to the actual access points themselves, but they'll still be in the same location. All the homes will have multi-car garages as well as driveways, which will be able to accommodate multiple cars, which should allow for residents and guests to be able to park off the street. Additionally, with the layout of the roads, homes could only really be oriented facing towards the proposed road, not towards any other existing roads.
And then finally, I'd like you to turn to the Historic Resource Impact Study and dive into a little more detail on the historic resources. Was your office involved in collaborating with the preparation of Exhibit A13, the Historic Resource Impact Study prepared by Richard Grubb and Associates, Inc., dated February 2025?
Yes.
And was that study originally prepared prior to the dialogue that then went on with the Historical Commission?
Yes.
And then you then also made adjustments, which further addressed mitigation measures during that discussion with the Historical Commission?
Yes.
And I know you've touched on the various resources already, but to the extent that we can sort of dive slightly deeper now that we have the rendered plan up there, if you could point out for the board exactly where those historic resources are that are being saved and where things are being moved up.
Yes, so Mr. Blower, there's actually a plan within, it was the last sheet of the conditional use plan set that showed the location of all of the historic resources, both in their existing location as well as where they would be relocated to. I think that you had just passed it.
Yeah. So this is Exhibit A7 and it's sheet 17.
There you go, that's it.
Yes, so this plan here shows, it's a little bit difficult to see, but this plan shows the existing location of all the existing historic resources. It also denotes whether they would be preserved, relocated, or demolished, and it also shows the future locations for those historic resources which are to be relocated.
And based on those keys, could you just generally point out for the board or make it clear exactly where the mansion is, the stable, and the gatehouse and gate posts that are?
Yes, so the mansion is located on the top right portion of that plan. The green section, which is shown to the left of the mansion, that was a later addition that's proposed to be demolished. And the existing portion, as I had said earlier, will remain and will be improved on the interior with no more than 6 apartments. The Morstein Stable Complex, which is located just to the left, shown in red with the mouse going around it, that is proposed to be demolished due to layout and grading constraints, and also the proposed use, which we discussed at length with the Historical Commission. However, the applicant is proposing to use some of the material from the stable complex for various landscape features throughout the site. Additionally, there is the Morstein gatehouse and gate posts. Those are located towards the bottom portion of the plan, and the applicant is proposing to relocate the old section of the gatehouse. There was a more recent addition which is proposed to be demolished, but the older section will be relocated to the old Phoenixville Pike entrance to serve as a more prominent entrance feature, as well as the gate posts as well. Those would also be relocated towards that old Phoenixville Pike entrance to serve as an entrance feature.
Can I interrupt you just for one second? The gatehouse, that was when I was at the Historic Commission meeting, that was kind of tentative whether it was going to be moved. Has that been firmed up that it's definitely being moved? Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're just trying to figure out what would be the best, once we get further along, what would be the best
Okay.
solution for it.
All right. It sounded like it was firm now. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. And then lastly the next historic resource is the train station, or the Morstein Station, which is located near the King Road entrance to the property. The existing location is shown in pink, and the applicant is proposing to relocate the train station towards the blue shaded area where it would serve as an entrance feature to the community. Lastly, the Whiteman House is located towards the top of the plan there shown in red, and the applicant proposes to demolish that.
And then finally, were there also historic resources that were identified that are off-site, particularly what I'll call the 12 Oaks complex?
Yes, the 12 Oaks complex is located towards the east, which here would be going up on the plan. And included in that is the 12 Oaks house, pump house, outhouse, garage, and gate posts.
And with the resultant plan that's before the board for approval, with the adjustments to the cluster itself and the overall design, do you believe that any impact on that is now being mitigated?
Yes.
And if you could explain to the board what is between 12 Oaks and the proposed development?
Yes, so between the 12 Oaks property and the proposed development is a significant amount of elevation change. Wooded areas within the Weston Solution campus, which is going to be preserved, and then as well existing vegetated buffer on the 12 Oaks property to help provide buffering between the 12 Oaks historic resources and the future improvements on the property.
So finally, in your opinion, has the proposed development now been designed so that impacts to on-site and adjacent historic resources have been appropriately mitigated?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
I have a couple questions. I'm not familiar with the Whiteman House. I hadn't heard of that in our historic meeting. What kind of structure is that?
So the Whiteman House is an existing single-family dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
It was identified in the historic resources report that our consultant had prepared. It was constructed sometime between 1968 and 1981. And I believe in that report, the consultant had stated that it was not considered to be significant within the context of the other historic resources on the property.
Okay, one other, just aside, I felt very disappointed that the stables that was in such excellent condition was going to be taken down as well. So when we get to land development, I'll be really interested to see what you're able to do with the elements of that structure throughout your community, because it really is in pretty solid shape. So I'll be watching for that.
The exterior, but again, as we discussed with historical, the inside is completely different.
Yeah, I didn't get to go inside, but I was there checking it out, and it was a significant piece of property or, structure. So, thank you.
Questions, Chairman Dund?
Oh, Libby beat me to it, so, good. Yeah.
Do you have any other witnesses, Counselor?
I do not. I would request to move the exhibits marked A1 through A13 into evidence.
So moved. So at this time, we'll open the floor up to public comments again for anybody in the room or anybody online that desires to ask any questions or make any comments on the application. Are there any public comments?
You have a question?
So just as a friendly reminder for the purposes of record, please state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Vince O. I live at 1320 Amstel Way. What's that?
Can you spell your name?
Vince O, last name O, spells O-U. Okay. I've been saying this many times in the previous public hearing or whatever you want to call it. Let me get my notes. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Councilor, that you and your team made a very good presentation and very professional. I've attended many public hearings, but this is the most professional type. Okay. Well, my point of view is a development plan like this, of this size, usually there are several features that it should be included in the application. And this conditional use application has been further along as much as I'm very surprised this got to this point. But I want to say is there are features in the development plan will affect neighbors or neighborhood. Okay, for instance, stormwater management, access roads, traffic impacts, buffers and open spaces, dust and noise controls in constructions, and operations and maintenance after construction. Okay, what I have heard that council asked many questions. Most of them just yes or no. That have you done this? Have you done that? Yes or no. But there's no substantial details that for us to have a chance to look at it. Okay, so in my experience, that the development plan should have a period of public review time. Okay, you provide the documents, the applications to the public. You set up a plan. This plan, I couldn't see from my seat there. Okay, this plan should have the full-size drawing layout in a meeting room somewhere in the building, in Township building, for everybody have a chance to look at if they are interested. Okay, this is typical. Okay, well, I'm not saying the Township has this requirement, but this is typically for public information. This is typically a setup for public to review. All right. Anyway, my concern most is the stormwater management. Okay, I happen to live the southwest corner from your development plan.
Talked many times.
Yes. Okay, and I happen to be downgrading from that corner, and it happened to be that corner you have a stormwater management basin. I don't think that you have to change any stormwater management design from previous applications. So that, if I'm correct, that basin is still infiltration basin. Okay. Infiltration basin, Township Ordinance, Chapter 270, Stormwater Management. This, I have a copy of it here. It's over 70 pages long. Okay. And your engineer, Mr. Engineer, says you design based on this ordinance. And this is Stormwater Management Ordinance, 70 pages long, Section 270. I hope you do, because I just glanced through. Okay, it's almost impossible to meet all the requirements in that Chapter 270. Okay, that's very hard. Okay, well, anyway, I live downgrading from the basin. I may, and quite possibly, will be affected by that basin. Okay, well, I know you're shaking your heads, but I like to see proofs. You need to demonstrate that you are not affecting me. Okay, and my neighbors. Okay, that's your responsibility. You need to demonstrate that. Okay, and you engineer need to design based on that, based on this material in the Chapter 270, little by little. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, so I like to have a chance to look at your plan. and look at the review comments, the review letters from township consultants or officials. This should be all public information. And better yet, maybe you should publish the public information in township website so we can take a look at it, okay, at home, all right? Or
it is published. It's been on there numerous times. It's fully accessible.
It is on the township website.
it is?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe later on when you have a meeting minutes, I can take a look at how to get that, okay?
If I may interrupt you a little bit, Mr. O.
Okay.
I mean, you said a couple things. First of all, you're right, these plans are all public. The review comments from our consultants, they are all public. They have been provided on the township website. The easiest way to get them is as a link from the meeting site for tonight's meeting. We also do have paper copies. So if you want to make an appointment and come in, we can set you up in one of our conference rooms and you can look at those as much as you like. Your concern about stormwater management, I remember you from prior meetings on this site, is certainly well taken. Again, we're at the conditional use phase right now. At this point, the applicant needs only to demonstrate the feasibility of compliance. So the stormwater management plan, for example, is not completely designed, but they have been able to satisfy our consultant that compliance is possible. When we get to the next stage, for the land development stage, that is when the stormwater management system, as well as the landscaping plan and the sewer system and the water system, everything needs to be fully designed, and they need to demonstrate full compliance with our regulations, including Chapter 270, which is the stormwater management ordinance. It's kind of nice because that ordinance was actually written by our consultants, so they're very familiar with it, and they are very particular about making sure that plans comply.
Okay, that's great. I just want to have a chance to verify that has been done by our consultant. They are on public funds. Mm-hmm. They are paid by public funds. So their reviews should be available to us too.
They are. They absolutely are, sir. Yes.
Okay. When I receive the meeting minutes, please let me know where I can get that information. Okay. Also in the review that last time I asked the board that our engineers should review focus in the stormwater management, I didn't hear much talk about stormwater management, which is probably the most significant items in any development. That stormwater, this is a 53-acre site, and that stormwater basin in that corner will take most of the development area. I would say probably 30 acres going to that stormwater basin. For 2 inches storm, this is probably only 2 years, 24-hour storm. For 2 inches storm, you're gonna have 1 million gallons water going towards that stormwater basin, and that's a huge lot of water towards that basin. And infiltration basin, you know as well, infiltration is a very slow process, and what excess water is going to go is overflow. Okay, overflow, that's the most impact to me and my neighborhood in that area. So I want to make sure that has been considered and properly designed to overcome that kind of flow towards us. Okay.
As we've discussed on several occasions over the last several years, it will be thoroughly reviewed by the township.
Okay.
And as you know, working at DEP, it will be thoroughly reviewed by the conservation district. So there'll be several layers of review, and it will comply with all of the requirements.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm waiting to see that information in our township website. And better yet, have a room set up. We can have a chance to look at a full-size drawing. It will be a lot easier to see full-size drawing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like Mr. Sharpaletti is online, has a question.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. You know, I'll lead off by saying, you know, we're very sad to see Weston Solutions go. We've been here for so long. It's so beautiful to see the trees and et cetera. So just, you know, things move on. And I want to acknowledge, you know, for all listening. You know, we've been in this conversation for a while, and I think given the size of the property and the inevitability that's going to get developed, I really like that the open space and the buffering has been taken into account. We're right at 1314, so we look at the stables. The stables is in our backyard, so we see that property. I want to acknowledge the work done to, you know, to listen and make changes. And I have a couple of quick questions. The one is just confirming the Whitman Way, no road, no cars through there, right? That looks like that's just it would come through the new Weston Way out through Old Phoenixville Pike, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you, John. And then the second and last question is that buffer, looking at our property, we're 1314, so we're right across from the stables there. Is the thought, besides a walking path, to add more foliage, more trees, make it denser to give a bit of a buffer before the houses start? Like where the Weston Way Road is now, is the thought to, you know, take that off and put plantings in or something else to help buffer? If not, could you?
Which sheet is the landscaping plan, do you recall?
I would say second from the end, so it's 15 or 16. I'm going to say it was sheet 15.
That one looks like. Okay, Mr. Sharpaletti, I'm pulling it up here. Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
And I think
We have some trees on our property, and there's a little bit of on Weston, but it'd be awesome if it was a little bit more dense between us, because it's not that much of a distance before the houses start.
As I mentioned before, when Mr. O was giving his comments, we have extensive landscaping requirements here in the township, and for the purposes of this conditional use application, the applicant only needs to demonstrate feasibility of compliance. So this looks like a fairly detailed landscaping plan, probably more detailed than it really needs to be. But you can see what's on the screen now. There is a small, like narrow stormwater basin, and then that would be directed back to new houses. Then there's the trail, then there is a landscape buffer, and then there's the homes along North Tulip. One thing I might add, and this is something to keep in mind during the land development stage, is that we do have a compensatory planting requirement that basically says that when a developer takes down trees, they have to put them back someplace. And if they can't fit them all in, they have a couple options, and among them is paying us money, which is always nice. But something that has been done in the past is that for property owners who have concerns like yours, if you are agreeable to it, we have allowed developers to plant some of those excess trees on your property and let that count toward their requirement. So if that's something you would be interested in, that's something to keep in mind, and particularly as we go through the land development review.
Thank you, John. I mean, we're that 2 or 3 houses that are right there. So any extra buffering would be really awesome. And just again, thank you. Thank you for working with us. What I see in this plan is having listened to the comments that the community has given in the past. And as much as I hate to see the property go away, we love it. The weekends it's quiet and beautiful. You know, this is life. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Question here. Do you still have a question?
My name's Raymond Keeman, 1314 Amstel Way.
Can you spell your last name?
McKeeman. Okay. And we're talking about stormwater, and I brought some pictures that I want to show you. I've lived in the house for 25 years. In 20 years of that, I've had flooding. And it's spring and fall. And I can show you a little closer pictures of it.
Can you walk up here with that?
Sure. I'll get about a dozen pictures here.
And where is your house located?
My house is up this way.
Okay,
The 202 is in the back.
okay,
Back of my yard.
okay.
All these areas here, storm rate over to,
Have you met before? Do you have a response to that? Yeah.
Denny here, but, I mean, I can just tell you at a high level is that we intend to, make the water flow better than it was. And I'll leave that to Denny as an expert, in doing that and his company, but.
You're putting property on the other, you're putting these houses on the other side of that, which comes under, flows across my property and goes over to the pond. Now I've got double water. I've got the water from the Weston property and this property. So I just wanted to bring it and show it to you. I mean, it's something I've been asking about for years, and this is probably my last chance. Because it's all developed around there. So, thank you.
A lot of times, the stormwater, not the stormwater management coming in from a development does help other people around. I mean, I'm not trying to make a stance for anybody, but hopefully in your case, that actually helps. Yeah, that's, yeah. All right.
Here, I've got to watch the size of the property, clear it out, water flowing across, it goes across the way into the pond.
Yeah.
Pond is terrible. It's down about 4 feet of water.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else?
Would you have
Mr. Dunn, actually, I would make a comment that, sorry. We did, just late this afternoon, we received an email from a resident, actually who's lives at the corner of Old Phoenixville Pike and King Road. At the direction of the Planning Commission, staff did reach out to the property owners along that short little stub of Old Phoenixville Pike to just make a special announcement that, this is, this meeting was happening tonight. This individual did express some concern about the additional traffic on Old Phoenixville Pike and the ability to get out to King Road. Certainly a legitimate concern. I think there was there might be some misunderstanding on their part about the plan. We can, and as I said, we just, literally, I believe the email came at 4:57 or something like that. So we can certainly get back to her and clarify some things. Obviously, I think the traffic concern is very much a legitimate one. But of course, I think it's worth noting that the Old Phoenixville Pike entrance is really going to be a secondary entrance for this property. It's actually the Western Way driveway is going to be the principal entrance. That being said, I can see folks who live here who want to go west on King Road using that Phoenixville Pike entrance because there's a traffic light there, and it's just going to be easier to get out. Compared to that, again, I imagine there was a similar situation, when Weston Solutions was in full swing. The same thing, employees wanted to go west on King would go there as well. So whether it's going to be significant impact, as I say, we can circle back with this person and let them know. One of the conditions that was actually indicated on the plan set, as well as in the recommended motion is to widen that cartway to 20 feet, which is not terribly wider than it is now, but it should help things be a little less congested along there anyway. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
You think this will cause a need for another traffic light in that area?
I mean, as you heard from the traffic report, we're actually going to be a significant reduction at key points in traffic flow. And as it exists now, that is actually a access point for the Weston property and residents. So it's not, we're not creating a new access point. And the level of traffic service from its existing to its, to what's proposed, as we said, is going to be significantly reduced. So, yeah.
We can circle back with Bowman, but I expect that the traffic from Weston was not enough to trigger the warrant because King Road is a state road. And with the traffic here being less, then I think it's unlikely that we'd be able to get a traffic signal there. Especially since there is one just, you know, basically half a block down the street.
All right.
All right, with all that being said, Councilor, do you have any final comments or remarks?
I have nothing further. We would encourage the board to approve the application, and we appreciate everyone, staff, residents, et cetera, working with us to come up with this plan, which we believe is a superior plan to what we had proposed previously.
Thank you for that.
I guess we need a motion to close the hearing, I
We
guess.
do, but remember, we have our practice where we motion to essentially continue the hearing until a defined date, and then you authorize my office to draft a written decision and findings of fact on the application. So, you know, we're not closing the hearing per se, but we are ending it for the evening. Looking at the calendar, your next two available board meetings are August 12th and August 26th. I would respectfully suggest August 26th as the continuation deadline to give us the time for the transcript and for me to write the decision and findings of fact.
That's fine.
Thank you. So, a lot of verbiage there. Just a motion to continue the hearing until August 26th and direct our office to write a decision.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the application for conditional use for Weston property and meet again on August 26th.
I
Did
second.
cover it?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I second that. And also, any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Hearing's closed. Thanks, guys.